Avatar Aang, The Last Airbender is directed by Montgomery with a screenplay by Tim Hedrick and Christopher Yost and a story by Bryan Konietzko, Michael Dante DiMartino, Tim Hedrick, and Kenneth. The film stars Eric Nam, Bautista, Jessica Matten, Martin Zaragoza, Dionne Quan, Taika Waititi, Geraldine Viswanathan, Ronny Chen, Ken Jeong, D. Bradley Baker, Stephen Yeun, Freida Pinto, and Quan. According to IMDb's plot synopsis, Avatar Aang, the world's last airbender, learns of an ancient power that could save his culture from extinction. With the help of his friends, he embarks on a globe quest to find it before it falls into the wrong hands. Avatar The Last Airbender is one of my favorite animated shows. Out of all the kid shows I remember watching, at the very least some bits and pieces of, this was one that stood out, and then when I fully watched it in its entirety, I found much appreciation in this show, blending both 2D and 3D animation, great character arcs, fantastic action, and wonderful score that has left a huge impact for the world of animation. There's a reason why this has a fan base, okay? Because of how much the story and the world building of Avatar that exists within this universe is just amazing, and it's well thought out. And the journey of Aang as a 12-year-old boy trying to learn all four elements to stop the Fire Lord from taking over the entire world with the Fire Nation was just so captivating, so funny, but also really inspiring to watch in terms of anybody that wanted to get into animation. It continued with The Legend of Korra, which has unfortunately left the community very divisive. To this day, this is a show that has really been a contention point of people feeling like the series has been ruined because of this show, or there are still devoted fans who still think that this show was misunderstood or feel like it gets so much hate that honestly, it's not really well warranted. Also, the less said about the god-awful live-action 2010 movie, the better. Yeah, M. Night Shyamalan was not cooking with that movie at all, and to this day is easily one of the worst adaptations of a beloved show, but also just one of the worst movies ever made. Like, period. Even the live-action Netflix show has been met with mixed reactions as well. I have not watched the second season. I remember watching the first season and thought it was okay. I'm hoping to rewatch it again just to jog my memory and watch the second season just so that way I know where my feelings are at. I get that it has this sort of divisiveness with regards to what people feel about it, but for me personally, I like to see things for myself. So I'm not expecting anything amazing like the original series, but I'm also not expecting something that is completely, absolutely worse like the 2010 film. Needless to say, this franchise has seen its rocky journey from start to finish. Wherever it is, Avatar still has a fan base that a lot of people just cannot get enough of, regardless on where they feel like the franchise is at this moment. There are fans out there. There are fans that really love these characters and love the world and love the animation for what it is, and for that it really has left a huge impact when it comes to animation and storytelling. With this latest animated movie, Team Avatar is back with a new adventure. It unfortunately, however, got leaked online months ago before its release, which really prompted a lot of people to check it out for themselves, even though a lot of people, especially the animators, were saying, please do not watch this. And yeah, a lot of people just ignored that advice and did so out of their own free will. Because of this, Paramount pulled it from being put in theaters. That's what it was originally going to be. It was going to be released theatrically for every fan to watch, and that is no longer the case. Well, unless you live in New York City and LA, but for the most part, you can't watch it anywhere in theaters. And on top of that, put it behind this streaming service that is, of course, Paramount Plus. If you want to get a chance, you better sign up for a subscription because you ain't gonna watch this shit for what, free? You want to watch something for free? Yeah, nice try. Having avoided watching this film until now because yes, I did not see any of the leaks. I just heard what people were talking about, but I did not watch it myself. I saved it for this moment because I want to respect the animators put in the hard work and time who really deserve so much respect for just even remotely wanting to be involved in this project along with the voice actors as well. It's truly a shame that this isn't in theaters because for me, I found this to be an enjoyable and fun time catching up with Team Avatar again. I was pleasantly surprised and happy that this movie turned out to be as fun as it was and as exciting as it was. And it really, I think, brings back fans to when the Avatar series was at its highest with regards to following the main characters that we all know and love and seeing where after the main series had ended and see what it's like for them now that they are trying to build Republic City and having to discover the idea of having more airbenders through this character that you meet, Taga. And so you get a sense of what Avatar Studio wants to make with this movie, and I do think they really succeed in the sense of giving you the sense of what the original series was like. But before discussing my issues, my only gripes with this movie, here are the positives. The voice acting is well done. The cast fits their roles and continues on the legacy of the series. Also, some of the actors playing new characters add depth to the series as a whole. The idea of replacing the original actors, I'm sure, was probably controversial because a lot of people have grown up with the voice actors that have played these characters, and I get it. I understand. Everyone's very attached to things that they used to grow up with. But I'll tell you this, I think most of the actors that played the main group, I think hold up pretty well. I think they add so much to this movie in terms of carrying on the legacy that the original show had, whilst not trying to feel like an imitation in the sense of trying to be like exactly to a T on how the characters are or were supposed to sound like. I feel like they were trying to build off their new identity and their new sense of voice when it comes to playing these iconic characters, because that's what I think is important, is that you don't want to feel like a copy and paste of the original actors, but at the same time you don't want to lose the identity of what made these characters so special. And so I thought they were done well enough to where I think they stand out on their own. I also really like Dave Bautista in this movie. I won't reveal much about his character because I do find his character to be fascinating, but I really think that he also adds a little bit of history with regards to Avatar, but also what it was like even before the 100-Year War and what life was like for him in a time when airbenders were still pretty relevant and around the age in which all the kingdoms of both water, earth, fire, and air together and how that was seen. I thought that was really interesting. But overall, I think the cast did a very solid job. The direction is solid. Director Lauren Montgomery brings the adventure and scope to this journey, fleshing out the Avatar world effectively. Avatar has a distinctive way of showcasing how the world of the Benders are like and the different cultures, because each of the kingdoms of the Benders are completely different from each other. You see that throughout the original series. It continues in Legend of Korra. And with this, it feels like it's still tacked. And the idea of having it bleed into Legend of Korra with regards to the whole Republic City and having benders and non-benders come together, that was well handled. I was really interested in how effective it was of trying to showcase what life was like even before that 100-Year War, like I mentioned. I thought that was explored in a way where it kept in line with what Avatar is known for, which is its history, its lore, but also its complexity as well. And I think Lauren Montgomery did a nice job of really balancing all of that out to where it feels like a bridge, a nice gap between these two series as a whole, and feeling like it's a nice spot for, I think, most fans of each of the different shows to really appreciate. Animation is gorgeous. Vibrant colors, movements, sceneries, and blending of 2D and 3D styles working together was amazing. As always, this section never disappoints. If there's one thing I think most Avatar fans can always agree on and always say they don't hate, it's the animation. I think everyone appreciates what type of animation has been put on display throughout the Avatar series, and this is no exception. The amount of different environments and the detailing on characters, the expressions, as well as, again, showing the different cultures, especially, again, with Republic City. I think that is all handled very well, and just how it pops off the screen, I thought was really gorgeous, especially in action sequences. They really looked beautiful and just exciting to watch when it happens. The music is stellar. Composer Jerry Zuckerman brings the chaos and harmony with each scene. Just like his previous work on the original and Korra series, it brings weight to it. The music in both of these shows are really good. Regardless on your feelings on Korra, it's beautiful. The music in it and even in this movie, they're really well done. And it's really felt throughout how much the series means with regards to its harmony and its orchestral score and the blending of different sorts of arrangements with how they handle the action sequences. It was all effective on trying to convey how Avatar is known for. And I really love seeing that. I think it was done very well, that it just worked on all fronts. The action is exciting. Seeing the bending and fights are still enthralling and amazingly handled when they're shown, keeping in line with what makes bending so special. Avatar is such a unique world that every time you see the bending, you can't help but feel like that is so cool and so awesome. It keeps that. There is a reason why bending is possibly one of the most inventive and interesting ideas for combat, because of how well executed and really showcasing the power in which these bending techniques are like. I found it to be so enthralling to watch and so awesome to see all the benders just fighting each other and just throwing everyone around left and right, using water, earth, fire, air, no matter what it was always cool when it happened. Pacing and runtime is right. Scenes would never slow down nor speed run to rush. With a runtime of 1 hour and 39 minutes, it stays within its boundaries. I'm glad that this is a movie that it does not go past what it is. I'm glad that it is to the point and it gets through it in a nice, fashionably manner, to where it's not giving you so much and not feeling like there's no breathing room, nor does it take a slow time to just get through things. It goes at a nice breakneck pace to where you kind of get the information that you need and still be invested in what's going on in what this movie is. And again, for what this movie has to offer, I'm just glad that it's not trying to be like almost close to 2 hours, because I would not want that. The villain is compelling. Seeing their reasoning and lengths they would go to was fascinating, making for a complex antagonist. Now, I'm not going to reveal who it is because, I mean, again, if nobody has seen it, I'm not going to spoil anything. All I will just say is that I found their backstory to be really interesting, and it does mirror a villain in The Legend of Korra. But again, I was still really interested in what this villain had to offer and their perspective, especially when things are revealed about their past and everything. I was really hooked, and I was really interested in how things were handled, in really exploring the idea of trauma and how that affects a person, and what they were willing to do to go the great lengths of restoring something that has been long forgotten for them. And I really found that to be such a unique but also really well done aspect to what this movie is. And I think it fits in line with what the Avatar series is known for, which is having complex villains that aren't always black and white. They are very gray, especially with characters like this. I think fit well with what the series should strive for, and I think works well in its favor. Though efficient, there were spots that stood out that didn't hit enough for me, in areas that I wish they could have probably touched upon, make it better. So here are now the negatives. The denying subplot was lackluster. Having this group of non-benders fight Team Avatar could have been interesting, but lacks the development to be investing. In the end, they felt shoehorned in. This is one aspect where I do feel like this was them trying to really establish the connection between Avatar and The Legend of Korra, because in the first season of Legend of Korra, there's this group called the Equalists, a group of non-benders who believe in the idea of taking away, or at the very least trying to go against benders and trying to restore more of a fair balance to non-benders, and feeling like they don't have to feel afraid or threatened by the idea of these benders coming after them. This kind of feels like the early stages of that, but I also feel like there's no depth to it nor complexity. It just kind of seems like they threw them in here as a way to throw people off on like who the actual villain is. And I wish they were more prevalent and more interesting, because to me, I feel like they were kind of one dimensional and not as well developed as I thought they should have been. The writing can be much. Writers Hedrick and Yost pens a script that captures the characters and how their mannerisms and their interactions with one another works, but don't allow for quieter or silent moments. It feels like they also would repeat the narrative multiple times, which I get. That's a streaming issue. This isn't like a new thing. This is a streaming problem with movies, where they constantly have to repeat the plot to people or narrative points. But it does get to a point where I feel like it didn't have to fall into these trappings because of what this series is known for, but unfortunately it does. And like I said, there are just moments where there should be quieter parts, but I just feel like Hedrick and Yost felt like if they stop for a moment, it feels like everything would just screech to a halt and just plummet. I feel like if there were more quieter moments, I think this movie could have benefited itself more into that category rather than just constantly talking over things over and over again. And even when the moments are supposed to be more silent, it just kind of felt like they were just still having to add more dialogue into this movie when it didn't need to be. The story is predictable. While not terrible, following Team Avatar as they search for an ancient staff felt easy to telegraph and formulaic, feeling standard than a standout. I wish this movie was more of a standout in the way in which how Avatar, each episode, except for maybe like one or two in my opinion, but for the most part, most, if not all the episodes in this show are excellent. They are well crafted, well made, and well executed. And this movie just kind of feels like it could not reach those heights, which I know I'm not expecting. But even then, I would still probably take some episodes of Legend of Korra as being more standouts than this movie, which is kind of the bummer part about it, and that the story aspect just doesn't hit the same way. And I feel like this storyline would have benefited more if they had that sort of raw emotion that these two series had. And that to me is the unfortunate part, is that I feel like the story, again, it's not terrible, does its job, but it does feel like for an Avatar project, I kind of was hoping for something a little bit more punchy in the way it wants to go about it. For all the troubles it had getting here, Avatar Aang-The Last Airbender is a nice addition to the series. Seeing the original crew with good voice work, beautiful animation, effective music, thrilling action, steady pacing and runtime, great direction, and compelling villain lends to the enjoyable levels. Even with the denial subplot, wordy script, and easy to predict story, this allows fans to be pleased with the thought behind it. Because I truly think that everyone involved, especially the original creators, had something here that I think they wanted to do and tell. And while I do think that, yes, like I said, it was predictable, I gotta give them the benefit of actually putting in the effort and trying, because they could have really half-assed this and made this not as exciting as it is. But for the most part, I was pleasantly surprised, and I am really now excited to see what they do with Seven Haven, because I'm very interested to see what more they can do with the Avatar universe, and I'm looking forward to it no matter what. I'm going to give Avatar Aang The Last Airbender a 7 out of 10. It's an enjoyable enough movie. If you have Paramount Plus, I give it a watch. If you're a fan of the original series or Legend of Korra as well, go for it. I think you'll have a good time with it. At the very least, it'll give you more Avatar content than I think most people are kind of looking for with regards to animated side, because with regards to live action, some people are very disappointed with how the Netflix series is turning, but if you want to keep in line with what the Avatar series is known for, I think this will do enough, at the very least, to hold you over until the new show comes out or new projects come out. So I will be soon doing a review for Spider-Man Brand New Day. So yes, look forward to that review and other reviews coming soon.